Hi everyone, it's me Darlene. I am back with part 2 of the big Wonky block quilt top. That's quite a mouthful. And we are going to be finishing the quilt top today. If you want to get caught up with this series, you can go watch how to make this block, and you can watch part 1 where you saw how I did this in assembly line fashion. I will have the link down below in the description box, in the pinned comment, and also on the end screen. I have my 15 blocks all done. And now I'm going to go lay them on the top of the bed so I can make sure I have the pattern all the right way. And I will show you. I'm going to go do that right now. I decided to go with the zigzag pattern. Well, it's kind of like on a diagonal. You can see the blocks going like that. It's a little bit harder to see right now because things are overlapping. But to do it this way, all I have to remember is pink corner up, pink corner down. So one is top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right. Pretty easy to remember. I just did that all the way down, but I'm going to just take one row at a time to the sewing machine and sew. I have one row sewn together, and I will tell you my lazy tacky way that I trimmed this. I sewed the blocks together first. What I did is kind of like eyeballed and centered them. So if one was a little bit of a taller block than the other, I just tried to center it. Then I actually did this. I folded my block. I put the sewn edge against a line and I just trimmed up the side using my edge of my mat. I turned and did the same thing, and if it didn't look like it needed much trimming, I didn't bother trimming. So that's how I did it. And I have this. Now I'm going to go put this back on the bed, and this is the bottom row. I started with that, and for this row I did the those two center seams out. The row above it, I'll do the center seams, I'll press them in and then out and then in, and that just makes less thickness when we sew the rows together. So I will do all the rows and then I'll be back. I have my 5 rows sewn together, and now I'm going to sew those rows together. And if you want, you can always take like your top left or top right of your quilt and put a safety pin so you know that's the top, because now I'm starting with the top. I'm going to sew the top row to the next row. Then when I get the other row, I have to remember to sew it on the end of here, not up here. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? So do whatever it takes to remember what you're doing. And I think I will go ahead and put a safety pin there. And I'm going to sew my rows together, and then I'll be right back. I did want to mention, when we were sewing the blocks together to create the row, there was no intersections. So that's why I kind of just eyeballed it. Now we do have these intersections. Again, nothing has to match perfectly. You can see I didn't even trim. Honestly, I don't even bother trimming like that. When I put the rows together, I can see that these are down lower, so I'm just going to go like a 1/4 of an inch away from that line, and I just sew straight down. I don't know. People like to trim. You're more than welcome to. If you think you can do it without trimming, you can totally skip that step. There's no law. You can be lazy and tacky, like moi. So anyway, I'm just going to, kind of aim for the intersections, just not that I want them to match, but that I just know that it's more, centered. So, like that. See what I mean? I know there's stuff there that could be trimmed, so I'm just pulling my row down a bit. And when I sew, I'm just going to come down here, then I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to use this top row as my guide, and that shit can stay right there. I have these 2 sewn together, and I did want to mention, if you're making a quilt top with a lot of rows, you can certainly sew 2 together, and then the next 2 together, and then the next 2 together. So you're not constantly bringing the whole quilt top with you to the machine each time. But I've only got 5 rows total, so I'm just going to go ahead and just sew them, all one after another. So I'm just going to go get my next row right there. And again, I'm going to match up the intersections as best as I can. And if they don't match up, like this one right now is matching up, this one's off by like maybe a ½ inch. So I'm just going to center it. So it's off like maybe a ¼ inch on each side. And that's good enough. And I am done. This took me about 2.5 hours, but I'm still going to call it a 3-hour quilt. I don't know if I mentioned, but that includes cutting the fabric. And I do a lot of talking with you when I'm on camera. Obviously, when I'm off camera, I can just zip right through this. I think this came out great. I just double checked and all my blocks are in the right direction. Do love that. I will have to trim around the edge because it's not perfectly even, and that's okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to sew in a more perfect way. I'm just not about that. I just want to get the job done, and I just don't care if it's perfect. I really don't. I like it to have character. You know how there are artists who paint, and some paint portraits with the tiniest of details, or landscapes that you think you're right there by the trees and the water, and then others just take paint and throw it at the canvas. And all that art can be in the same spot in the gallery, priced at $1 million each. It doesn't matter what it looks like. If it's beautiful to you, it's fucking art. And don't let people discourage you from just sewing. Again, those who want to do it in a perfect way, I understand that's what they're going for. They like that. They enjoy it. If you don't enjoy perfection and you just want to make quilt tops, you are free to do that. You have my permission. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go take a few pictures of this on my bed. I will be back with more soon. Please subscribe for more lazy tacky methods. Bye!